about some point last year, we submitted a successful bid to DFT to deliver a cooperative intelligent transport system. The main aim of this was to assist blind and visually impaired people within and around Peterborough City Centre. So that's the primary objective of this project. The reason I say that, it's easy to get sidetracked with these sorts of things, so it's probably better that we keep that at our forefront. Our aim is to make a difference to those people who may not necessarily get around as easily as those of us who take our eyesight for granted. So this is in partnership with the RNIB, and so we have a very relatively small budget, but I think we can do some really exciting and some great things and make a difference to many people's lives. So I recently attended a meeting with the other successful bids from the CITS funding pot, and this was the only one which was sort of vulnerable road user focused. So everybody else was focused on intelligent transport in terms of intelligent cars, intelligent lorries, trains, and nobody else really focused on vulnerable road users. So we're unique in that sense, and the DFT is very excited about this project, and so there's a lot that we can do with your guys' help. So so any ideas, any ways in which you think that we can progress this forward, just give us a shout, and there'll be quite a few opportunities to do so today. So I think Jon is going to give a bit of a detailed introduction into the project it's going to be going through. So thank you all.
Thank you, sir. So, how did this? Why has RNIB? What I'll do is I'll give some context. So, we've been researching wayfinding solutions and blind and partially sighted people for a number of years now, and I think so far we've evaluated some 66 different technologies that might fit with some aspect of somebody getting better situational awareness or navigating the environment. We're constantly chasing the technology landscape, and we're constantly looking at creating a pilot, and that pilot might be successful and it might fit a small jigsaw of the holistic task of navigating a whole bunch of variable environments and all of the various public transport, infrastructures and nuances of trying to navigate and understand where you are. What we found is that we are constantly chasing that holy grail. And ideally what we would like is a platform that we can utilise and then simulate existing and emerging technologies in, and then we can utilise that platform as a proving ground and as a rapid prototyping to understand what a holistic solution or solutions, because I don't believe, and I think everyone in the room agrees, there isn't one single technology that will meet all of the user needs out in the environment. So we have to blend those technologies together, and the easiest way to do that is within a controlled environment like a simulation, and then we can look at those holistic solutions that work, pull them out and plot them in the environment, and then test if indeed our hypothesis in simulation works. So that's the reason that this came about. I think Sohail mentioned the reason for this is to allow pedestrians and blind and partially sighted pedestrians to actually find their way around the environments better. And we mustn't lose sight of that. And it's very easy in a project like this to get all drawn into the technology and to actually get a bit wowed by it and lose sight of the actual. We need to produce something at the end of this project, at the end of the day, that has real benefit. It might be a small gain, it might be a massive gain, but the whole point is actually to create something tangible at the end of the day. So with that in mind, Marc from RNIB is going to explain a little bit about what it might be like to try and traverse environments and some of the issues that he finds as an individual navigating the environment. So Marc, would you like to come up and explain what you see?
I'll come in. Sure.
By all means. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for allowing me to talk today. It's going to be, if anybody can't understand me, I am Scouse, so I can always translate later. So yeah, it's I think really just to set the scene for me. I've been visually impaired since I was a kid. My dad can't see anything anymore. I've got a condition called cone rod dystrophy, which also affects my brother, who's now got a guide dog. So you've got my dad who can't see, my brother with some residual sight who's got a guide dog, and myself who doesn't actually use anything at the moment to navigate around. But I want to take you back to a couple of years ago when my life went on a bit of a journey. I got talent spotted for the British judo squad when I was 18. I'd done judo for years, as my dad was a Paralympian, and you know, it was quite an interesting process, because I was literally plucked from my roots in Liverpool and plonked in Dartford, which was quite a challenge. And from the fact that I realised quite quickly that I couldn't cook or make anything for myself without ordering without having Domino's on speed dial. It was the realisation of being in somewhere that I didn't know was quite a shock. Although for me, I'd done what my dad had always done, which was actually take everything on as a bit of a challenge. So just from literally getting out of my flat in Dartford with my 17-year-old brother, I was 18 at the time, not being able to cook, quite a very new environment. I didn't know what bus to get. I didn't know where the bus stop was for a start. When I wanted to go shopping, you know, I didn't actually go online at the time. I wanted to know where the shops were, but found myself walking down the M25, which wasn't the most ideal thing, because I didn't know where I was. I didn't really know. Although my mum had showed me where I couldn't remember. You know, it's difficult for us to take all that information in at one time. When I did eventually get to Asda, I didn't know where anything was. Probably in there for about 3 hours, trying to just get them standard things that I wanted to get every day. Get back, couldn't realise I couldn't actually see what was on any of the packaging. There was a lot of challenges that I faced just from being taken from somewhere where I was used to navigating around and being put in somewhere completely different. And you know, I think that it's going to apply to there's a huge scope of visual impairment. We all have to remember that, and it's going to apply to everybody. You know, we're all going to have different issues, and that's one really important thing to remember, is that, you know, where one thing may benefit one person, it may not suit another. So it's not about trying to find a solution that's going to one thing fits all. It's just about finding a solution which, as Jon said, which may just make that little bit of difference. It may just simply be letting somebody know that there's something in the way. You know, I think visually impaired people, what we don't actually mention a lot is that we use our brain a lot more. We remember where things are. We all have our different coping strategy, and if there's something out there which may help or assist with that existing coping strategy, that's great. So, you know, it's a challenge, and I think we have to continue with that word challenge. You know, we will find certain solutions. Some of them may not be for everybody, but you know, I remember it took me 3 years to convince my 49-year-old dad to actually get an iPhone, which could help him a little bit more. So it's gonna be a challenge to even introduce people to these new things as well. But that's a little bit of an insight into some of the challenges that we face, and you know, I'm more than happy to answer questions later on in terms of further what would benefit myself. But again, I make sure that from every point of view that I look at this from that whole wide scope of everybody being an individual. But yeah,
Thank you, Marc.
no problem at all.
So we're very lucky today in that we've got Marc, and we've got some other visually impaired individuals in the room which will have totally different experiences. So, with your permission, guys, if other stakeholders in the room want to talk to you about your own individual perspectives and the issues that you found, I think you will realise that when you ask 10 people one question, you'll get 10 different answers. And that's the same for everybody.
Maybe 11.
Maybe 11, yeah. Right, your case happens, yes, it will be 11. But that's the point, and I think Marc's hit on something here. You know, we talk about a holistic solution. So yes, from a design for all perspective, we can design something and create something that fits for the majority, but there will always be instances and individuals that need something different or something extra. And that solution needs to dovetail into that something extra. So, an example, lots of startups come to me with an idea about how they can eradicate the use of a cane. Now, there may be technology out there that can make a cane redundant. The question I keep going back to them is, okay, that's really good. Why do you want to get rid of the cane? What is wrong with that as a technology? And why do you think that if you design something that is all whiz-bangy and you put it on your head and it's got ultrasonics and you can detect everything, why do you think that individual on that morning they get that bit of kit is going to go, well, I don't need that anymore, and go out and try and negotiate a pedestrian crossing, this, that or the other? There's going to be a transition period. So technology has to dovetail into people's workarounds. And we know that anyway. I mean, we know that these things have taken over the world. But it's taken a finite amount of time. You know, when these were first around, we didn't all go out and buy one and go, right, now we're going to throw away our wallet because we don't need that. Because you can do everything on your phone in terms of payment. There was a transition period. And that's what we've got to be careful with. So technology can be an enabler, but it doesn't necessarily have to then throw away somebody's workarounds. Line and Partial Sighted people are really, really good at finding workarounds, because that's what they have to do every single day. Well, just get it. So, should we do a round the room so everyone's got some context? Just a quick introduction. So, Jon, Worsfold on the B.
Martin Pett from the Visualisation team.
Carl Field, software developer for TSE, Visualisation.
I'm Matt, I'm a visualization technologist, so I work with cameras and capturing the real world.
Jon Scott, product development manager for Marshalls.
Roger Wilson-Hinds, representing RealThing from Australia.
Jon, do you want to start?
Jon Wellsman, I'm policy lead at Guide Dogs for Transport and Travel.
Jan Wellsman, John Wellsman, support worker.
Jamie Champansley, Human Factors, Trust for Catapult.
Hayley Braxton, I work for Maynard, a Wayfindr design consultancy.
Claire Lawler, researcher at University College London.
Justin Douglas, About Time Creative, 3D Visualisation.
I'm Tiernan, I'm from Wayfindr, we're a subsidiary of the Royal Society for Blind Children.
What percentage who's going to take the lead
I will.
So I'm Claire Boissiere, I'm from Conspexit, and we're a new startup in London that's making an application to visually impaired.
RNIB, I've got Claire at Conspexit.
Marc, Powell, RNIB.
My name is Hans Lienert, company Draeger and Lienert from Germany. We do vocational systems for blind and visually impaired people, and here I am presenting the Blindsquare system.
I'm Gavin Neate from Neatebox.
Ryan Johnson, GIS engineer with the MEB team here at TSE.
Sohail, Ilyas, Peterborough City Council.
Nick Williamson, I work with John at the RNIB.
Nick Ray from React Technologies. We took over the React wayfinding system from RNIB a couple of years ago.
Juan Madrona from Leica Systems. We work with mobile mapping systems.
Lewis Hook from MK Surveys. We use a lot of Leica's equipment to map the real world.
So a massive, diverse set of stakeholders, and it's your job to pull this together now. Right, okay, what time is it? Good. So, we can talk about the first phase.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I'm going to introduce the team here.
So I want to echo Jon's comments. It's great to have this broad selection of skills and people here. I think there's something we've been talking about for quite a few years now with the RNIB and various individuals is how can we capture the virtual environment and use it to do good and change the way people design products, make things more efficient, more inclusive. And that's typical.
I'll use the mouse.
Locked. Be very upset. There we go. Okay, so at the Catapult, we've got a team of 8 people now with diverse skill sets in game creation, in GIS, data, visual capturing, programming. And we've had the fortunate task of identifying all this new technology, all this new immersive technology that's coming out, and how it could be applied in the transport sector. So we don't want to let all the game developers and entertainment industry have all the fun with the kit. What potential is this new medium for engaging and making independent decisions? So to that effect, we've built a lab next door, which we'll take you through later on, and for those who want to have a go on it, and got the courage to walk around on the world's first holiday, be able to experience some of the virtual worlds that we've been creating and using for different applications. So I think perhaps a frustration of mine whilst working at Jaguar Land Rover was how difficult it was to simulate the new features that were being dreamt up by marketing that they said people wanted, and we then had to integrate onto next generation vehicles. Particularly when the only facility we had was a laboratory, some cardboards and printouts, and a few existing vehicles. To actually prototype and simulate what systems should do and how they should react to other vehicle systems, the state of the vehicle, all these different things, are really difficult, and often required me to pull favours from engineers who were stretched as it was to try and prototype this up. So I think as a result of being exposed to this technology, it's really highlighted that we can do a lot of testing in the virtual world and gain greater insights to minimise spend on research and prototypes that don't lead to anything, and focusing on what the user needs it to be. So I'm just going to show you a quick video here, and I'll try and describe this verbally for those who can't see the screen. So we've just completed a piece of work for a UK automotive OEM. We're looking at autonomous vehicles. So there's a lot of work being done to make these vehicles very clever, detect the environment and react to it, but how should that vehicle react when it comes towards you? What should it display visually? What should it emit audibly, and how should it behave? Nobody's really thought about the end user. So what we've done with an omnidirectional treadmill, which is essentially a treadmill that goes in every direction from a centre point, as you walk along the treadmill, it moves you virtually through a space whilst wearing a VR headset. And using this system, we can control the variables associated with your encounter with this autonomous vehicle. We can measure your physiology, we can ask you subjective questions, and we can start to gain insights in a controlled fashion that would otherwise not be possible. Think about the risk assessment to say, we want to drive a vehicle at somebody, see how they react in the real world, at the cost of doing that, closing off part of the pavements and roads, weather implications, etc. It's not a viable solution.
Sorry, just really quickly, can I just share a picture of that with my team?
Yes.
Is that okay? I didn't want to share anything.
Well, we're going to say later on, so you'll be able to record it live. You can go on it, and we can film you on there.
No thanks.
No? Okay.
No, but we've programmed some colours.
So, one of the challenges we had when creating virtual Milton Keynes was actually creating virtual Milton Keynes, the cost and time associated with it, how accurate did it need to be, and what aspects need to be represented to run a user trial, how visually accurate it needed to be, how close you're going to get to objects, what are the activities in that space. And at the moment, that's a real barrier to the adoption of VR because creating content is costly. People don't want to share content because it's costly, and there are security implications for transport hubs and airports and trains, etc. So that is one of the major barriers to doing really good work. And some of the work activities I talked about, user interaction, but also design iteration, allowing designers to step into their environments and assess it, being able to bring other people into that environment and assess it. So it's a really challenging area, and I think it's got huge potential for use in any design process and stakeholder engagement. So we can also experience that from the perspective of an autonomous pod. So we're starting to talk to companies developing autonomous vehicles to make sure they start to think about the user in that experience. And we can again program it to behave and give haptic sensations and create different sounds and different interface that you can interact with. So ultimately, at one point in the future, we'd like to get to an almost photorealistic environment. It's going to take a few technological jumps to get to that point. And hopefully I'll show you. And another piece of work we've been doing is with the RNIB to simulate visual impairments. So that's kind of, those two activities have what led to us being involved in this project. Because we created a visual impairment simulation with the RNIB that has been accredited as being the most accurate representation of 6 of the major eye conditions. And you'll notice on the table there's a Google Cardboard, which if you have a mobile phone and a bit of time later on, you can download our application Eyewear. That allows you to see the world around you through different visual impairments. So we developed that, and then we've gone on to virtual reality simulations using these impairments and be able to edit that environment and make changes. So in context of what we hope to be involved with, well, we're going to be involved with this project, we want to involve as many partners as possible with different bits of technology that can help to create this virtual environment and then represent technologies in that environment, such that we can edit the placement of these different sensors, the messages, the cues that will give individuals, and allow people without visual impairments to navigate through that and experience what it's like, allow people with visual impairments to navigate through that and communicate what's right and wrong, and create this ecosystem of collaboration and input to a project, so that before we even get to deploying, we understand how the end user is going to feel about that experience and how we can optimize it such that we don't waste time putting things in the wrong place that don't have real value. So I think that just about covers. Yeah. So I just want to point out my team. Well, there's 4 of us in the room. We wear the purple lanyards. Hasn't got his. But don't worry about that. So we'll be around all day. We're going to go through the lab. So feel free to quiz and ask loads of questions if you haven't already spoken to us before. And I've been looking forward to a really interesting day. So, thank you.
Thank you. So we've got a plan, and we've got a timeline, which I'll share with you. Okay, that's interesting.
All right, I'll crack on.
That's superb. Really good. You do that. That's really good. So now we can have 4 presentations at the same time, which I'm interested in. Okay, basically, phase 1, building of the virtual reality simulation, the environment. So August through to November, so quite a short timeline. That also includes the modelling of the technologies, so modelling of Bluetooth beacons, for example, modelling of other stakeholders' solutions, and embedding those as a workable solution in the VR simulation. Then from December to February, to refine those simulations, make sure that the user interface is right, make sure that the triggering of information, if you're in the simulation and you're approaching a beacon that's been deployed on the corner of Acacia Avenue or whatever it is, that it actually triggers at the appropriate time, provides the appropriate messaging, and we can then understand and go through from a top level point of view with a clean sheet of paper what would be the ideal user interface, or man-machine interface for somebody who wants to navigate that environment. Once we've got that underlying framework of user needs and the user interface, we can then start looking at what of those technologies would underpin that, rather than the other way around, which is what we used to do, was chase the technology and then expect the user to fit in with the technology. We will identify what's good, we'll identify some overlaps, and we'll identify some gaps, I would imagine. The idea is, at least we've identified all of those 3 things. From that, we will then deduce which solutions that are blended together provide that holistic solution that could be deployed in the real world. And then we enter phase 2. Phase 2 is deploying those bits of kit into the Peterborough environment. And this is where Peterborough starts getting a little bit twitchy, because we're going to be starting asking stakeholders to agree contracts with the City Council so that they can install stuff in the environment. We'll obviously got to be careful that whatever's installed in the environment, people aren't going to get hurt, health and safety and everything else, because this is good stuff, but there's also risk. So once we've deployed those into the environment, which will be between March and June, then we will go back to the simulations and check that actually those simulations are representative of what's actually been deployed in the real world, and we'll hone the simulations. Because they are only simulations, until we get into the real world, they can't really measure it. Once we have done that, we will then evaluate those real world solutions that they actually provide benefit for people on the ground. Blind and partially sighted people, but also the larger community. The idea here is not to create something that only works for blind and partially sighted people. It's to create something that has benefit for everybody and just happens to be accessible to blind and partially sighted people. That's the ideal. Getting to that ideal is going to be difficult. You know, we've got a very, very modest budget. We've got 55,000 that we got as funding. Half of that will go on the simulations. That leaves about 20,000 to try and help to get those solutions and whatever else we need to do. So there's quite a lot of in-kind work that will be needed. And again, this is where you guys can identify what you bring to the party, what you can do, what you need to get out of the project, so that we can actually refine our plan to make sure that over the course of today, when we go through some of the workshops, we haven't missed things or our assumptions aren't correct. So that's the overview of the plan. That's the timeline. And obviously all of that is out of my head or out of others' heads, so it can change.
In terms of follow-on, and in terms of the area to be looked at, I've brought up the models of point plans. That's quite relevant in terms of, we're not trying to do the whole of Peterborough, we're trying to look at a route, but I don't know if everybody's seen the scoping document as to what we're trying to achieve with this money, but do you mind pressing your button?
I can't touch down this one?
No, it's not big enough anyway. So the objective, so Peterborough got new offices over here, and then the building over there. This is the train station, and this is the bus station, this is the shopping centre, and there's three potential routes to get there for people coming to visit the office. One of them is up, across this road, or around this area here, over an overpass, through the car park, over the bus station, through the shopping centre. I can't remember where it comes out somewhere around here, doesn't it?
Yep, that's right.
And then along here. So that's an interesting area to try and simulate, but there are existing blueprints and CAD models for that shopping centre. Maybe a technology orientated towards internal scanning might be more appropriate there. Then we've got these routes here where you've got this wonderful different coloured pavements which suddenly stop.
Don't look at me, that's up to him.
And then you've got a crossover at the entrance to the car park, and then you've got to navigate to this side, and all you come around this south route here. Either way, it's challenging to find a way on that particular route.
So just to add to that, the most direct route from the train station to Midgate House for blind and partially sighted people visiting RNIB is not the most sensible route for blind and partially sighted people to actually walk. So blind and partially sighted people prefer to come out of the station, walk along here, find the pedestrian crossing and go all the way around to get to where we are, because it's a much, much safer route than the direct route. The direct route you cross some quite convoluted junctions with a bus station, with an underground car park, and it just doesn't work. I mean, it's simple as that. So what we want to try and do, measure of success, is can we, during the project, deploy those solutions within those walking routes for pedestrians from Midgate House to the railway station and to the bus station.
Can I just add to your point, John, is that I actually jumped in a taxi because I didn't know where the office was when I went down to Peterborough. And the taxi driver criticised me because it was so close, but I couldn't actually find the place anywhere.
It's about half a mile, exactly. Yeah. But as professionals, you know, I'm guilty of it. I'll go to visit a company and I'll have an idea where the company is, and I might choose to take the train. The company could be less than a mile away, but I'll jump in a taxi. I won't Google and go, well, I wonder what bus I can get, I wonder where the bus station is, I wonder what, because I don't know where to get off, because I've never been there. And that's another one of the issues that blind and partially sighted people have said to us. You know, if we get on a bus and it's an unfamiliar route, how do I know when I'm going to get off? How do I know, as I'm on the bus, how do I know if in fact my stop is going to be the next one or the third one? And the cognitive load involved in remembering those stops, you wouldn't believe. We as sighted individuals have the cues as we're going along. So we get an idea of where we are, and therefore we know when we're going to get off. If you haven't got that, you need something that can provide that information. Unless somebody's thought about it, it's not there.
John, I think the other important thing to think about, given the government's agenda for mental health as well, is the degree of stress and anxiety that will invoke in a sighted person, and then double that, triple that for a blind or partially sighted person. So even if they want to make the journey and want to attempt to make the journey, it has, even if they've habituated to that level of stress and anxiety, there is still an immense mental impact on undertaking that journey, and the worry of getting there successfully.
Totally agree. And you just touched on something from the point of view that we can create a solution, we can create a tool that is fit for purpose. That doesn't mean to say individuals are going to utilise it. If they haven't got sight of it and can access some information from the point of view of, I want to go to town, I don't know the route, I haven't got somebody who can help me or guide me, I need, as an individual, to be able to make that emotional jump from the, I want to do something, to the, yes, there's a certain amount of pre-planning I need to do, and there's a certain amount of emotional hoops I've got to jump through before I'll actually commit to trying it. And then when I do commit to trying it, what happens if something goes wrong? What fallback have I got? Or how do I get myself out of a mess? Or what happens if I get a phone call halfway through that journey and the person I was going to meet is now somewhere else? Or there's a delay. You know, all of those workarounds we take for granted. We need to be able to build those in as well. So John, you raise a good point. It's about that emotional. Goes back to the old thing. If you're driving a car and your fuel gauge says it's full, you run out of fuel, you don't trust the fuel gauge anymore. It's the same with the technology. It's got to be robust. So we can't create something that is all whiz-bangy but a bit flaky, because the day it goes flaky, nobody will use it again. So it's got to be robust as well. There's got to be resilience in this. That's a great picture of. Oh, it's a shame you went back to that. If you can zoom back in, that is the entrance to Midgate House, as Google see it, with that great big barrier. There's a metal barrier right the way around the entrance. I don't think they've actually opened yet. Well, we've moved there, and that barrier's now gone. From an accessibility point of view, that didn't work. So,
have you got a big sign at the front?
No. Right. What time is it? Brilliant. So I think we should now open the floor up to you guys from the point of view of sharing who you are, what you bring, what you'd like to get out. There's quite a lot of you in the room. Originally in the email I said 5 to 10 minutes. So if we do that with the amount of people in the room, we're going to be here till tomorrow. So if we can keep it as short and concise as possible, should we say 5 minutes? Good. Let's have a time.
I'll find a time.
Let's make it a bit fun so you can get in everything you want to say within 5 minutes. When it gets to the 5 minutes, you are going to have to stop. So get in the important bits. Okay. So let's make this a bit fun now. Ready?
Try to download an app.
Who? How?
Try to download an app there.
2 seconds.
You have to download the app first.
No, you're trying to download one there. Just go to top.
No, seriously, this is about you guys
Type in
sharing what you want to get out, and us then having a conversation about what gaps there are and everything else. So, who would like to go first?
If you want to know the history, we've been around forever, established in the 1890s, so we're a pretty old company. Leading UK manufacturer of commercial paving, domestic paving, drainage, street furniture, walling. We've got mortars, minerals, and natural stone. So quite a lot of the built environment kind of we can supply bits of. I didn't realise that had a nice effect. So yeah, I represent most of the street furniture side. So I don't know too much about paving, but we have obviously things like LRV values available for all of our paving, which helps designers obviously do their bit in terms of the inclusive design. A lot of it's concrete. We have natural stone, curbing, all sorts of other products, so including tactile paving. Quite a range of bits of kit. Drainage, because obviously everybody needs that to sort of get rid of the surface water, but again, sort of having input from you guys in terms of are there things we can do with the drainage to help people guide. Could it also be a guiding channel? How do people detect those sort of areas? Seating, it's a big kind of growth area for us. We specialise in our coordinated ranges of seats, benches, bins, planters, across multiple materials and finishes. Another growth area for us is the perimeter protection. So this is protecting public spaces against people who want to do bad things to those spaces. So HVM is hostile vehicle mitigation. That's literally stopping trucks, like you can see on the image on the left of a rather poorly car that's hit one of our bollards. Lower levels anti-ram, and then just the basic delineation products as well. Shelters.
So there's a trade-off there, John, from the point of view of preventing vehicles.
Yes.
And providing an obstacle for a pedestrian.
Yes. Yeah. That also includes some of the post and rail products and things as well. So yeah, it's kind of a fairly combined thing. We also then incorporate lighting and bits into those. We offer a series of shelters. We started to then look at integrating technology into that in terms of journey planning, wayfinding, using real-time information systems and other assistive technologies. Standard wayfinding stuff, so we provide the chassis that people can then obviously place their map panels onto. These can then be LED illuminated, have digital interactive panels, potentially retrofit beacons and things as well. We do have a variety of lighting products. We've moved away from the kind of street lighting and more into the architectural sort of lighting. So this is lights in benches, in signage, and access lighting, things in the ground, so smaller sort of lighting products. We do where we can to try and obviously have inclusive design in our products. The simple things, tactile paving, LRV values, the DDA compliant dimensions for seating, things we try and at least cover those basics. And a big push for us is to have technology integrated into stuff. The idea is that you can have, and I think echoing some of the comments earlier, a product, especially say for wayfinding, should work for everybody. But to have an assistive layer on top of that that's kind of an invisible piece that other people can access, that's what we want to try and get to. Again, all incorporated in the protective technology and kind of combining all those things together is an interest to us. We dabbled with some digital assistive technology a year or two ago, which is how we got in contact with Jon. We at the time had a Bluetooth beacon system, but we've struggled to really deploy that. It's not our expertise. We make metal things and put them in the ground. We're not techie guys, so I'm hoping that I can talk to some of you guys about that sort of side of it. Thinking about your VR modelling, there's a big push in our industry for something called BIM, BIM Building Information Modelling, where they have a full 3D model of the whole building. To support that, we then digitise all of our products, so we've got a library of over 150 products online, and we're continuing adding to that in various formats. And all of our standard products are designed in 3D CAD as well, so we can export sort of models that you guys can then drop into simulations, for example.
So you, Martin, you might need to find some hard drive space to take on.
Just dumped a lot. We've had a little play with VR ourselves, but literally just some fun Google Cardboard stuff for a paving campaign that we did, just to play about with tech. So we were kind of aware of it, but knowing it.
We've got terabytes of space, so feel free to fill that out.
Awesome. So I think what we can offer really is when we get to the physical side, we're more than happy to try and help with actual physical prototypes. For us, it's learning about the development of products for the urban realm, and also helping you guys to create digital assets. If you need products designing or lumps of things drawn up, we can probably help you guys with that. And what we'd like to kind of hopefully get from all this is to talk to the people in the room and see if we can get, right, fine, cut it short.
You took 27 seconds more than you should do.
Nice.
That's it, that's the big.
Yeah.
Well done, Jon.
Cheers.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Right, who's set up next?
First of all, thank you to Marc from RNIB for the explanation. Now I know where the traffic jam on the M25 comes from.
It's being run across.
So my name is Hans Lienert. I'm from the company Dräger and Lienert from Marburg, Germany. Our company exists since roughly 30 years. We are specialized in vocational systems. So what we do, we produce technology that enables people who are blind from birth or who go blind by an accident or by a disease to carry on working. So we do basically everything that can help. So we have people working at offices, we have physicists, we have physiotherapists, we do switchboard systems, all kinds of technology, and we have about 15 own products. Most of them, we call them so-called inclusive solutions. Just to give you one example, we did the switchboard in Berlin where Angela Merkel works. Not that I'm a huge fan of her, but there is a blind guy working there, and we did the solution, and there are 2 blind people using the system, and then sighted people. And the funny thing is, by introducing this system, there was a benefit for the sighted people as well. So that's the ideal goal that we have. We also worked in the field of navigation. In 2008, I think it was, we did the first museum worldwide. We did a system RFID based, where you could literally walk in and you were able to find your way. So you used your cane, and then there were tags at the wall, and you got explanations how to walk, and you could simply follow through this through the entire building. So that was in 2008. Now we have the smartphones and everything. I think about 10 years ago, I got in contact with a guy from Canada, and his name is Rob Neving, and the company is You Are Able. And Rob, he started to market our products on an international scale. And Rob is doing a product called Blindsquare with a guy from Finland. And at a certain point he asked me, hey, would you be interested to represent the Blindsquare system in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and so on? And I said yes, and it includes the UK. And there is one reason, my wife and we come to the UK more or less every second month to meet with people, make music, dance, go on narrow boats and all kind of fun stuff. So I thought, hey, good occasion to combine what I like and with business things. So we represent the Blindsquare system. I'll come back to that in a minute. Yesterday, I'm visually impaired, so my vision is like 1% now. My vision was much better 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And with 1%, especially when it's dark, you cannot find your way around. So yesterday when I arrived at the station, I went to the taxi driver and asked him I told him where I want to go to, and he said, look, it's just over there, you can get there easily. I said, okay, thank you, I'll try it. But then what happened, there were 2 hotels that had the similar name, so that was the first problem. Then, after a while, I got several hints from people who told me, look, you have to go this way and that way, but I found it extremely difficult to navigate around this place, because there is not only a line of houses and a sidewalk, and as a blind person you can follow the tactile wall and then use some talking sat-nav. I get stuck everywhere, on car parks, I walked through bushes. I was lucky I didn't meet a crocodile, but then some guys took me back to the taxi driver and he said, hey, you brought this guy back. and then I started my journey again. So my personal experience is that I lose vision, so I lose this frame of reference, this wonderful frame of reference that gives you orientation. You know, okay, this is the wall, that is the wall. You know where you are, and you know where to move. And I am searching for a solution where I can hear and virtually feel the environment, so that I do not have the feeling of being lost in the space, but a solution that that helps me to know, okay, I'm here. And I have a prototype with me. We are working on different types of technology. This one emits ultrasonic sound, and by listening to the reflection, you get an idea how far is the wall. So this is just one example of technology. And now, finally, I come back to the Blindsquare system. The Blindsquare system is a navigation, is an orientation system for blind people. It exists in, I think, 15 or more languages. In the blind community, I would say it's the most popular app. So yesterday, with Blindsquare, I found a restaurant that I wanted to go to. Not really, I didn't really find the door, but I was so close that I could ask somebody. And the Blindsquare system, since I don't know where, started to use beacons. And what we do, we equip buildings and public areas with beacons. And I wouldn't call this navigation, I would call that audio, like audio sounds. A sighted person enters the subway station, and then there is a sign, oh, this is line 8, and here you go to line 6. So what you can do with Blindsquare, you can turn, and the system will tell you this way leads to line 6. So in a way, by being able to use the audio signs, you can find your own way. And the Blindsquare system is basically an open system. We try to integrate as many technologies as possible. And what I try to find here, and I'm convinced that it will work out really good, I try to find people who work in the same area, bring other aspects so that we can combine technologies, because that's basically what our company was doing since 30 years.
Thank you.
How many seconds?
6 minutes and 59. You asked. Thank you, Dan. Just to expand a little bit on the Blindsquare offering. So Blindsquare offering is an app, and they've agreed to geofence Peterborough. So with Gatehouse being the centre, and then we will geofence a 3-kilometre geofence around the Gatehouse. So anybody that goes to Peterborough within that 3-kilometre geofence will be able to utilise Blindsquare free of charge. So we're not just talking about blind and partially sighted people, which is aimed at, but anybody could utilise that as an orientation, points of interest tool. And again, that's to try and make the accessible products more accessible to everybody else. So again, that will help. Okay, who would like to go next whilst we try and sort out Max? You all right with that? Good.
Cool. Before I start, my name's Gavin Neate. I have a company called Neatebox, and I have 2 solutions that I'm going to show you today. The solutions are actually already in use. So this isn't what's going to happen in the future, this is already happening. This is called Button, and what I'll show you on the Mac is called Welcome. Button has just won a DFT award for road safety, CHIT and DFT award for road safety, which was down in London, and it's now in the finals for the National Transport Awards in November. And Welcome is an app, and this, I'll explain that in more detail. Welcome is an application to help people receive service when they go into any building or any environment at all. And I'll show you, I'll explain why I came up with these ideas. For 18 years I was a guide dog mobility instructor working for Guide Dogs for the Blind, and with the pedestrian crossing, or what we're calling Button, I was getting my clients coming up to curb edges on the tactile paving and doing this to try and find buttons. And of course it might be there, it might be back here, it might be back there. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be good if a mobile phone could press the button at the pedestrian crossing? So I came up with Button. Button is an app. There's 2 apps, one just been launched the other day. This is the button app. This is looking for pedestrian crossings. It will do automatically, but for demonstration purposes, I'll show you one here. I press the button on the phone and I press the button on the actual pedestrian crossing. This is installed in 10 crossings in Largs, which is why it's won the award just recently. So that's button, and it can be set up to do an automatic button push as well. So anybody coming up to it would be able to just press the button. If I just put that down, it'll go through a cycle. Once I realised I could use this for people who were visually impaired, it's also anybody with MS, somebody in a wheelchair, somebody pushing a pram, workmen carrying tools. So that is a solution for absolutely everybody and anybody. But as soon as I realised I could press a button, I thought, well, if I can press a button, I could press any button. What if I approach a hospital door? What if I approach a hotel door? Wouldn't it be good if I could then give information to the people inside the building? So I came up with Welcome. Welcome is an application which the person downloads a free application. They can then decide where they want to go. What we've got here is the retailer, and this is the person with disability. The person with disability, we've got Transport Catapult set up on here, says I want to go to Transport Catapult, and this is any disability at all. So we can see exactly how accessible Transport Catapult is as a building. 3 stars. So we can say we're going to Transport Catapult. We can then say what we specifically want. Let's just say it's the first time we've ever been here. Let's go and we want to meet such and such a person. And we need assistance at the entrance. We then hit next. We say we're going to go between 9 and 12 tomorrow. And if you're looking at this screen here, the requirements have now been sent to Transport Catapult. This is a web-based server. So that pops up on here. We can then, it's just popped up. If we then look at that, we can see that Gavin has got a visual impairment. He's arriving tomorrow between 9 and 12. He needs assistance at the entrance, and then it gives an overview of my disability. It then gives 5 top tips of that disability. RNIB have given us the top tips and the overview for visual impairment. Guide dogs visual impairment with the guide dog scope for multiple disabilities. Action on hearing loss for anybody with a hearing loss, and hearing impairment, Autism UK. All these guys have been behind this. We've already got sign-ups from Atos, RBS, Edinburgh Airport. I just said they were installing it. So this is a solution that's already out there. This is a solution that's already out there. And both of them, amazingly, although they use GPS and Bluetooth or BLE, this uses beacon technology, which we can put inside every single crossing. We were using this in 2011, so we were using BLE, beacon technology, in 2011, 2012, so we're really early days when it comes to doing this stuff. Is that only 3 minutes?
That's
I normally do 45 minutes, but it's already there. So,
well, you helped Hans then, because he used up some of your time anyway.
That's cool. And both apps are free to the person with disability. So anybody with disability. And just yesterday, in fact this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, I got an email from San Diego from a lady saying, "I've seen all your stuff on social media, when did it come to America?" And we have that on a daily basis. And I say we've launched already with both, and it's called Neatebox. If you want to download the app now, anybody can download it. It's on iOS and Google Play. Welcome by Neatebox. Please download it today. Put in a visit that you would like to do. You can make up, if you have a disability or not have a disability, you can make up the visit and it will pop up on this screen. But that's accessible through the web. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Claire from Conspexit. Just a bit of background about me and my team. We're actually game makers, so I've been making computer games for the last 20 years. 10 years of those in augmented reality, but also some virtual reality, and at PlayStation. So quite familiar with what you guys are doing, keen to have a play on it later. We're trying to use the knowledge that we've got to make an intelligent assistant connecting technology, environments and people. What does that mean in simple terms? We want to be able to use the mobile phone camera to see what's right in front of you and provide that information back to someone who is unsure about their environment. We're not trying to replace, as Jon said, guide dogs or canes, or we're just trying to supplement, and we're not trying to make key decisions for people. It is just about giving that additional information that they might not have at the moment to increase confidence. What are our core pillars? So we use our technology to see the world. The biggest differentiator with us is that it's real time. So because we've got the mobile phone camera, we're actually seeing what's right in front of you in real time. We're using AI technology so that we're learning and evolving all the time, so we can be quite adaptive about what's in front of you. And we're trying to be connected, so somebody's user journey from the moment they leave the door till they get to their end point has lots of steps in the way. It's not just about walking down the street, and that's part of what we're here for today, I think. And we're trying to fill in all those little missing gaps where if you've got kind of a beacon, it can get you so far, but maybe it can't help you actually see the bus that you need to get. Maybe that's the little missing step, and that's what we're trying to
Or the beacon
solve.
hasn't been deployed.
Sorry?
Or the beacon hasn't been deployed in the area that you're actually trying
Yeah.
to walk to.
Yeah, because we can be that kind of real-time adaptive. How do we actually work? So you just hold up the mobile phone, camera is looking at the world in front of it, and we pick up edges, which you can see in yellow there, and then we turn those edges into actual objects. We can say it's an object that's in front of you, and then we calculate a kind of a path. What is that clear walking space that you could walk along? So that's kind of a quick summary of how the technology works. It's obviously a bit more complicated than that. So that technology, although it's very clever, it's actually quite dumb, because although it can see edges and it can see there's an obstacle, it doesn't know what that obstacle is. So being game makers, we've decided to make a game as well, and that augmented reality game will get normal players out on the streets, chasing monsters, taking pictures in the background of litter bins and benches and lampposts, so that we can get our AI technology learning about what all of those look like, so that when the camera actually sees something in front of it, it can say, oh, that's a bench, you just, avoid that bench that's coming up. So we're also making a game which makes our app more intelligent. We're trying to make it very, very simple and low entry barrier, basically. So it is just a mobile phone using the camera that sees. We haven't exactly figured out how that fits on your body yet. Still working on that bit, but we're providing information back. Ideally, in terms of audio, we're looking at bone conducting earphones. We're very interested in Blindsquare, kind of where you're trying to create that audio atmosphere, certainly in terms of your basic walking space, because people still want to then hear map navigation on top of it. So, and we're also looking at haptics, so how we can provide haptic feedback, and potentially working with some companies to come up with some small devices that you might be able to wear to help get extra information. So we've been looking a lot at the actual user journey, and we're trying to focus on a kind of end-to-end solution. So it starts off in your home, and you're kind of pre-planning what is it that you're actually trying to do, because we want people to feel that extra bit of comfort in their home, that they feel confident when they step out the door, they've got it kind of planned out what they're going to be doing. When they're actually walking down the street, that's where the core of our technology comes in. But also in terms of public transport and entry points and those kind of missing bits, how do you actually find what you're actually looking for, where you're trying to go, bus stop, knowing which one. When technologies fail, could we step in and help out at that point? We're an early stage startup, so we've been doing our technology for about 6-8 months now. So we don't have a product to show, but we're here because I'm hoping that we can work, ideally with lots of you, to figure out how we get everything connected in terms of having an app. Help with that. How do I do for time?
Perfect.
Spot on.
I'm from Maynard, and it's our little muse. I think Jon came to visit us. We're basically we're a multidisciplinary design practice, so we've got a team of strategists and planners, but also designers, and that's design in terms of graphics and actual physical products as well. And we do work across multiple sectors, so it can be public realm, as we're mainly talking about today, but also transport hubs and commercial buildings as well. There's a picture of the team. So yeah, we produce wayfinding graphics, the products as well, and basically just to create better environments for people to navigate. And we don't just do that in the UK, but we've collaborated with various well-tested people across the world, so Sydney, Southampton, Tiernan, for example. Varied projects, as I said before, so we have done some schemes, urban realm schemes, so including mapping, products on the street. We've also done systems where in Melbourne and Sydney, where we're looking at the transport network. Also Crossrail, again, that's a lot of the product design as well, so not just the signage, but things like the cameras, speakers, that kind of thing, so quite a varied portfolio. Our approach is kind of like 4 main areas, so insight, strategy, creativity and innovation. So a lot of the work we do is really kind of based in research and actually understanding the users, so we don't just go out there and make things that look nice. We want to actually make sure they work and they're giving people what they need. We don't always work alone, so we often collaborate with engineers, architects and manufacturers as well. So as I was saying before, just in terms of our process, at the beginning, lots of listening and engaging, working out what it is people need, and then analysing all that data. Then we get creative, that's the fun bit, some people think. We try and evaluate where we can and test our solutions and deliver them. We have worked in Peterborough before, so this is before I joined Maynard, but we did work on the products and the mapping guidelines. So they're on the street now, I believe. not been to Peterborough, but yeah, we looked at things like the layouts, the pictograms, the materials, the whole suite. We've also have an existing relationship with the RNIB, so we did do the kind of day where you go out and put the simulation goggles on and things. So we like to get involved in these kind of things as well, so we can understand what's going on out there, not just be sat at our desks. So what can we bring to projects? Obviously we've got quite a varied skill set at Maynard. We feel like we could actually be quite useful at the beginning, doing some kind of baseline auditing, what's there now, what's working and what's not working. So actually that can input into what we want to do in the actual virtual environment. Again, if we look at things like how much detail do we want to go in the model, what elements are important for wayfinding, so that will come out of kind of the auditing process. We've got expertise in wayfinding street furniture analysis, so we could also suggest kind of graphics for the virtual environment in terms of if there's anything visual. And then, you know, things like textures, materials, lighting, that kind of thing. And throughout the testing, we can again get involved in updating and iterating design solutions, and then looking at actual testing and the kind of questions, you know, working out what kind of questions we should be asking when we're testing, based on kind of flows and problem areas, that kind of thing. And from a Maynard perspective, we think we've got a kind of fresh perspective in terms of we encompass a lot of areas in our work. So we take a kind of service design approach, which is very focused on the user, but we've also got knowledge of graphics and products. And I think for us today, really, one of the things we don't have expertise in-house on is the technology. So some of you guys today will be talking about stuff, and I probably won't have a clue how it works or what it's about, but fundamentally we want to understand this stuff because we know it's really important, especially in terms of a lot of what we do at the moment is 2D, kind of static, and we know that doesn't answer all the questions for all the users, so we really want to, as Maynard, go one step further and make sure that all our solutions are kind of fully rounded, really.
Perfect. Thank you. You've got a minute left.
Oh.
Right, tech. I'm an academic, so I'm bound to ramble on and take your minute and then some. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from University College London, and my research interests and research area are around 3D geographical information science and something that was mentioned earlier, building information modelling. And to put it in more lay terms, it's sort of modelling the city inside and outside, the infrastructure and everything around both inside and outside the city. But where I'm particularly interested in is the combination of the inside-outside question, and also in making a model of the city useful and usable for a particular purpose. So I will talk very quickly about two things around that. One is a thing called 3D generalization, and that is the making the model useful for a particular purpose. And the second one is some work we're doing on improving GPS within particularly urban canyons and urban cities. So 3D city models are great. They're underpinning all the work we're talking about today, underpinning virtual Peterborough, because we're going to know where the sensors are, and not only where the sensors are, but where they are in relation to other things, to the benches, to the traffic lights, and so on and so forth. But the more information you put in them, the slower the models become, and I think this is something Matt alluded to earlier as well. So generalization is creating the right level of detail. 10 brownie points for anyone who knows where that building is. I won't waste time while you guess. It's actually in Sheffield. You can model that building in many ways. You can model it as a flat roof with quite a little bit of detail, or as you can see on the right, model it with the full detail of all the roof structures and the windows and the doors. And the more complex model is around about, well, the way cities are modelled is you model them as triangles within the virtual environment. And the simple model is 316 triangles, the complicated model is 2,000 triangles. The more triangles you put in the system, the slower it's going to be. So when somebody is moving in the virtual environment, it's not going to be as responsive. The more detail you put, the slower things go. So my research is looking at what detail do we need, but what detail can we throw out. Just in the interest of time, I won't really talk about too many of the projects around that, but just to say some of the things we've been looking at in terms of, do we need roof structures? Do we need the detail of the roof, every dormer window, every gable, every, I don't know, solar panel or not in a certain situation? If we remove them, we get a much faster performance, and this is in a test we did in Sheffield. So again, if we simplify somewhat the building footprint, do we need to know every single indentation, every single bay window, or can we represent the building as a square or as a block? Again, we get a quite realistic looking city model, but a huge increase in performance of the virtual system that we're trying to work with. So that's one part of the research. Moving on to the second thing, again around 3D city models. Everybody here's heard of GPS, global positioning system, sat-nav, that kind of lay term for that. The more technical term is GNSS, which is Global Navigation Satellite Systems, and there are 4 different countries who have satellites out there that can locate us to, depending on the environment we're in, anything up to 30 meters accuracy. It can be worse, it can be better. It's particularly problematic when you've got high buildings and what are called urban canyons, but also in situations where you've got glass buildings and the signals from the satellites are being bounced off the glass and you're getting reflections and so on and so forth. So what we're looking at is trying to get a much better positioning accuracy from knowing where the satellite signals are, and I will, again, in the interest of time, just skip forward to one slide. But also, if you know that you're standing in a location where there's no satellite signal expected, so if you can model that, knowing that you're not expecting to see a satellite can actually tell you almost as much about where you are as knowing that you're expecting to see the signal. So it's called shadow matching. And again, we've managed to, skipping forward a little bit, improve the errors that you get in satellite modelling by a factor of up to 7 times, which means that going down from 30 to sort of 4 or 5 metre positional accuracy just using satellite signals. So what we're doing at the minute is we've, last week in fact, been around Peterborough, and we're running some tests to sort of feed into this project as well. Results take a bit of time to process, they will be available in the next few months. We're also looking at signals from not only satellites but from other more local signals like Wi-Fi, like the beacons, and working out positional improvements around that as well. 7 seconds over.
I'm standing in for colleague Jon Scott, who heads up Guide Dog's inclusion technology projects. So I haven't got a presentation, as Jon is away on leave, and I was here at short notice. But what I wanted to do is just give you an overview of Guide Dog's work in the area, 3 key areas that we're working on, but not in too much detail because Jon would be the man who can give you more detail as time goes on, but hopefully it will give you enough information. So Guide Dogs is a mobility provider in that, like Brett here down to my left, we provide blind and partially sighted people with guide dogs to support mobility, but also that isn't always appropriate. So not everybody wants a guide dog, not everybody needs a guide dog, so we also provide mobility training, things like using long canes, symbol canes, other forms of mobility to support someone's independence and mobility. As a part of that, we recognise there's a technological age coming along, and we recognise that technology, as has already been discussed this morning, will support mobility, as I think quite rightly pointed out. It won't replace those existing mobility aids at the moment, but it would certainly enhance those mobility. So we are actively, as a project, looking for the technology that we think will support independence and mobility, orientation, and we're then training up our staff. So when they go out and actually train someone with a guide dog, they may say, there is a supplemental piece of technology or this supplemental aid that you might want to think about using to support your mobility. So that's one part. The second part is inclusion as a project. John Shelton is heading up an inclusion project, and the inclusion project I think reflects again a lot of the work that's been done here today, in that it's actually saying, yes, we need blind and partially sighted people to be included in society, but what we're suggesting is, whether that's a technological solution or whether that's an environmental solution, it's a solution that fits in with the public realm or the built environment, that actually it's a solution that will suit everybody. So again, it's actually making sure that whilst it's inclusive for blind and partially sighted people, it's inclusive for everybody. So it's not necessarily, as I think sometimes people fall into the trap of doing, they say this, you know, if you do it for blind and partially sighted people, it'll suit everybody. That's not always true. But in the reverse, in what Jon was saying earlier on, actually you can design systems that will benefit blind and partially sighted people and benefit everybody else at the same time. So in essence, that's what the inclusion project is looking at doing. And then I think the last part, which some of you may be aware, is that we've been working on a project, I know some colleagues here from the Transport Systems, Catapult and the like have been involved in, is our Cities Unlocked project. And that's a project that primarily centred around working with Microsoft and major key transport and infrastructure providers. And it was looking at technological solutions, basically given that day-to-day, door-to-door experience, e.g. I want to go from my home to an end goal or maybe come back again and plan that journey and have interactivity throughout that. What's that technology going to look like? So that was a sort of like a future scoping exercise, and there's a film to match that if anybody's interested. I can post this today, send them a link to that. But what that came down to is actually working with Microsoft and those partners and actually coming up with a solution which hopefully will be out by the end of the year that will support orientation and mobility for a blind or partially sighted person. And the technology will be freely available, so actually be useful to anybody who thinks that solution will support them in getting around an unfamiliar cityscape or environment. And I presume, because I'm not embedded in this necessarily, that there's other technologies to follow from the way that my colleagues are talking. So it's the start of a relationship with Microsoft actually to get them to think about accessibility, to get them to think about how accessibility works and how it impacts on their users, and to develop the technology to support that in, obviously, the orientation and mobility realm.
Wayfindr, which is part of the Royal Society for Blind Children, is established as a joint venture with another company called Bus2, which does kind of digital immersive design experiences. And what we kind of do is look at audio navigation and wayfinding as a way to make the world more accessible to blind and vision impaired people. At the moment, with a particular focus on public transport, the idea being, and we did some research about if you could make public transport more accessible to blind or partially sighted people, you make so much more of the world accessible because they can use it to travel to different places. So, being part of the RSPC, we're kind of mission driven, not commercially driven, so I made this decision that the best way to actually achieve this goal was not to develop a kind of single kind of proprietary technology or one kind of app, as we discussed, because it's difficult to uptake and you're not going to create something that's going to work for absolutely everyone. So what we have developed is the world's first open standard for audio navigation, which has now been approved by the International Telecommunications Union, which is a branch of the United Nations, but that effectively means it's recognised in 193 countries around the world. And the idea is that it's technologically neutral, but it gives a consistent experience to the end user in terms of when they receive audio instructions, how those instructions are structured, things like that. So the idea is it's a complementary mobility aid, obviously, but the consistency is what will get uptake from the end user, is the effective idea. So far we've done trials in quite a few places around the world, an awful lot with London Underground, and in Sydney as well. We're doing some stuff in Oslo at the minute, and have some stuff coming up in Barcelona later this year and early next year. So what we're looking to offer to this project, as it were, is hopefully the use of the standard if there's an audio wayfinding component, and also maybe just sharing some of our experiences around trying new kinds of technologies for vision impairment people.
So something like Wayfindr could utilise the UUID codes within our beacons if they were in all the pedestrian crossings?
Yes, so most of the trials we've done so far have been with the beacons. So ideally that could work. It depends. One of the things we're actually testing in Oslo is how often people want to receive instructions, so it would depend on how frequently the beacons are placed in the environment. Because I mean, if there's only pedestrian crossing every 200 metres, it's maybe a long way for someone to go without reassurance that they're on the right track, and also a lot of opportunities for them to go off the course. And then if you're using beacons, if you only have one route planned beacon layout, if someone goes off the route, it's maybe a bit difficult to get them back, which is obviously a problem. To your point about kind of the one time the technology fails, what's people using for good. But yeah, it's absolutely possible.
So I would imagine that as you've each heard other people's pitches, there are overlaps kicking around in people's heads, and that's exactly what should happen. Hopefully we've got a decent mix of stakeholders here where it all begins to overlap, and we can all see where someone's technology might fill a gap. To create that holistic ability for somebody to actually go, I'm actually going shopping today, on my own, without pre-planning it 2 days in advance, and I'm going to go there. Simple as that. And that's what we're trying to get to somehow. Okay, who wants to go next?
Loads of me. I've been there. Just
come on. Superb.
bring it back, people. I'll try and keep this short and sweet. This is just one of the presentations me and my colleague done here at TSC a couple of months ago. So I've just borrowed it basically. So I'm going to speak to you hopefully no longer than 5 minutes. Just a quick overview of MK surveys, where I'm from, the trial data that we collected for the TSC, the equipment we used, and a couple of quick case studies, hopefully if we've got time. So been around since 1972. As the name suggests, our head office is in Milton Keynes. We have satellite offices around the country as well. Currently employ just under sort of 90 staff. We have various certifications to be able to work pretty much anywhere we need to go, and we're a member of the Survey Association, which is the governing body of our industry. We have many divisions, so we undertake all types of survey really. Historically coming from a land survey background, we still undertake topographic surveys, measured building surveys, underground utility surveys, surveys with BIM, mobile mapping, which is more what I'm going to talk about today, as well as touch on GIS, structure monitoring, and railway surveys. So the project I mentioned that we undertook for TSC was a trial project along Midsummer Boulevard. Started down at the train station, came all the way up to Midsummer Arcade, the shopping centre up the road there. So won't be familiar to you all, but it's basically this road that we can see out the window. We used two mobile mapping solutions. One was our Leica Pegasus 2, which is a vehicle-mounted solution. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. And we also, with the help of WAM, we used the Pegasus Backpack mobile mapping solution to do pavement areas, the pedestrian routes. I believe there was going to be some UAV data collected as well. I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but basically large areas can be mapped very, very quickly and very accurately. So there's the Leica Pegasus 2. Am I in your way, sir? So like I said, it's a vehicle-mounted solution. We record LiDAR data, so 3D measurement data. It has integrated cameras, so we get imagery as we go along, and it's positioned using GPS or GNSS. And with good GPS coverage, we can achieve sort of sub 20mm accuracies, no problem. That's without any ground control points. So mobile mapping, the mobile mapping on Midsummer Boulevard took us about 2 hours to do the roads. We've done that 3 times. We've got really good coverage in behind obstructions and things like that. Survey grade accuracy, so out there we've got pretty good GPS coverage. We were achieving sub 20mm accuracies. The output was a colorized point cloud, so it uses the imagery to colorize the measurement data to actually look realistic, as well as the imagery, of course. It took us about a day to process the data and clean it up, so it's a usable data set. And the data can be provided in a variety of formats. This is the backpack, so the Leica Pegasus backpack, similar solution, only sits on your back, so we use this for the pedestrian routes. The accuracies were still good, probably not quite as good as the mobile, the vehicle-mounted solution, but still we're talking sort of sub 30-40mm, so it's still very, very good. Again, areas walked. Me and Juan split it to save our legs, but it's about an hour and a quarter. That was again same route, so we went all around the pedestrian areas, around the train station, and then all the way up to the shopping centre. Again, survey grade accuracy, and the same outputs really. So there's just an image there showing you the data that we collected. There's probably a couple of others as well. So there's an underpass recorded backpack solution. There's another one. That is colorized point cloud data, measurement data, so it looks like an image, but it's not. There's a few more images there. So basically, what we can offer to these kind of projects is accurate, real-life environments, measurement data that can be used within the virtual reality models. What we want out of it, lots of money would be nice, but no, you know, things like this, we're happy to sort of help out as much as we can and get involved. So my time's up, so I'll leave it there. So I've got a bit of data on my laptop, so if anyone wants to have a look at anything later on, then just give me a shout.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Roger, would you like to?
It's me turning the volume up. For those who don't see, I've got a Doro phone and a beacon on the desk, and I'm going to demonstrate an offering from RealThing, a small company out of Australia, perhaps 5 or 6 employees. Great vision. They came out of the defence industry. They've got a lot of technology knowledge and a remarkable interest in the needs of people who can't see. There are kind of 3 principles behind what I'm going to show you. We're trying to avoid blind people having to carry lots of things around in their bags and their pockets. Okay, a white stick and a mobile phone would be pretty good. I'm actually waiting for a guide dog as well, so we'll see. But keep the number of products in our pockets to a minimum. We're looking for the simplest platform possible for a person who's out in the street, stressed, fussed, not sure where they're going. We don't want to be messing around with tiny screens and little keyboards and lots of icons in the way and that kind of stuff. So we've looked at the IVR option, that's interactive voice response. You talk to it and you listen to it and get your information. The other thing is we're very concerned with a reasonable price. This product is called RNIB in your pocket, and it sells currently for £20 a month, which gives you the phone and the airtime and access to masses of books and podcasts and all sorts of interesting things. And we're currently working together on the navigation issues. So So here we go. Phone in hand, just one button. What time is it? There's no internet here. I'm not using.
Keynes, England, United Kingdom, is 31 minutes past 12 p.m. on Thursday, August 10, 2017.
Where am I?
Please wait while I collect location information.
If it says you're here.
Yeah. Add to this street. I'm not making.
You are close to 150 Midsummer Boulevard, Milton Keynes, now approximately 60 meters from the corner of Lower 2nd Street and Midsummer Boulevard.
Okay. What is nearby?
Please wait while I collect location information. Where you were 0 minutes ago, nearby points of interest include Wetherspoons, Toys R Us, Trafford Milton Keynes Central Hotel, Turtle Bay, Interaction Recruitment, Holidays Milton Keynes Central, Bradwell Common Guest House.
It was designed for me, pubs first. Enable navigation.
Enabling navigation and guidance. Please be aware that this feature uses a lot of power, so will drain your battery quickly. Say, disable navigation when you are close to Roger's seat.
I'm right close to Roger's seat. Okay? I've got a little beacon on the desk. Save location as top table. I'm not sure if I've got enough power without Wi-Fi on here. No, I haven't got enough power. Okay, with Wi-Fi connected, and I should have done that. No apologies, ever. Yeah, it would speak to me and say top table, or whatever I chose to. Okay? That's how it works. That's what we're interested in.
Can I have it?
Okay. 6 months in advance, 120 quid now. It's designed by some very capable people. They've taken a lot of time, and we've taken a lot of time to take blind and partially sighted people on board. I just want to say I owe a debt of gratitude to Jon, because for literally 7 or 8 years we've been ponting about in this field, researching, playing with toys, enjoying ourselves. And Jon came to see us and he said, why don't you actually try and sell something sensible? So he put us in touch with this company and the RNIB, and you've heard the result, and thank you.
So just while we're sorting this out, so RNIB in your pocket, just so you guys know, that Roger's just mentioned, the idea was to, again, collaborate with a number of partners. RealThing's conversational front end is intelligent. It's incredible. So take Siri, Cortana, and all the other, Alexa, take all the other conversational products out there and rate them from 1 to 10. And RealThings would be up at the top at 10. From the point of view of deducing what you're saying and keeping a thread of what you're talking about. So unlike, for example, Amazon Echo, where it's one shot and it doesn't keep the conversational thread, you can keep the thread of what you're talking about. So you could ask, where am I, what's around me, is there a coffee shop, what's the name of it? It will recognise that you're talking about that coffee shop rather than having to keep doing the thing. From a user interface, man-machine interface point of view, audio is becoming the interaction of audio is what we're doing now, and yet when we start talking about technology, somehow we think that we're going to stop doing what we're doing now and we're going to use visuals and keyboards. So it is becoming more prevalent, but there's a right way and a wrong way to implement it. Audio is a very linear medium. So if you're trying to present information to somebody, if you're doing it, if for example you're trying to reproduce somebody's website as an audio stream, you need to make sure you get that information in the right order for the question or the task at hand. from a visual point of view, you can scan that website very, very quickly and you can find the bits you need. When you start talking about audio, you've got to prioritise that audio information and allow the user to interact and interrupt it to then go off to something else. So it's not quite as easy as people may suggest. That's a building block that we would like to build on and then build into the simulations, for example, and then build in as a user interface onto other products and services. Have I filled in enough?
You've done very well. Not quite well enough.
I think, John, there was an interesting point. I used to work for a web testing company, a software testing company, and we had an example of that. We had a very premier hotel chain based in Hong Kong who wanted us to test their website. And for the sighted user, this was a very, we're talking about £500 or £600 a night hotel rooms and things like that. So visually, the website was fantastic. It was a beautiful to behold, lovely pictures and all this sort of thing. From a screen reader perspective, because each page had been coded by a different person, I had a completely different experience every page I went to, and genuinely, without exaggerating it at all, they just were completely different websites. There was no commonality between the user experience from one page to the next one. So for me as a blind person, even if I could afford the hotel rooms, I'd have given up really quickly because it just became just too challenging to try and work out from one page to the next what was going on and what information I was looking for.
So that's filled in a bit.
It does feel that whatever solution that we come up with, John, has to be easier than just making a phone call to the place that you wanted to visit. That does seem to make sense, because if somebody's always got an easier solution, if the easier solution is an easier solution, then people are more likely to use it, I guess, rather than going through an app.
Yeah.
You can almost create a problem. Not people will always have, like I mentioned before, people always have their workarounds, and you can always create go too far.
Yeah.
So yeah, your points.
Well, John was saying that about the long cane.
Exactly.
If we replace the long cane with something that makes life harder, then it's not, for a start, it's just not going to survive.
Speaking from About Time Creative, I kind of want to take a step back a little bit, because all these really great presentations and all the technology, it's quite easy to get blown away and excited about the opportunity at hand. I started in the 3D world about 15 years ago, having a creative agency that produced 3D environments, CG, motion graphics and animation. And we produced a lot of work for the Sky, so a lot of the gambling and betting adverts that you would see on TV was my old agency. Got bored of gambling, not a gambling man. However, what we do like doing is finding out how people's businesses work, and we started working with Leica about 7 years ago. And we knew nothing about GNSS, GPS, scanning, LiDAR, etc., but we learned very quickly, and we've been producing all of their video modelling and various promotional videos for the past 4 years in my new creative agency, About Time. What that's allowed us to do is get hold of a lot of data from Leica. They've been very kind with it, because we take all the LiDAR data and the scans, and we've been researching and developing ways of optimising that data to get it into a 3D environment that doesn't absolutely blow our machines to bits. I think the lady over there mentioned earlier about reducing all the polygons. That's what we've been trying to work out, a smooth pipeline that allows us to cost effectively produce a 3D environment without it blowing the budget. That's the biggest hurdle for a lot of people in the room that we've had the discussions before. I had some lovely little videos to show you about how we use the Leica products to scan the Business Design Centre in Islington, and take the scan, which was millions and millions of polygons, and turn it into something manageable that allowed us to show the scan working, the product working, so the Leica product, how it scans, visualising that, and then taking the data and creating a 3D environment that you could navigate around. Unfortunately, I can't show you that now. As a development of this, we've been given other LiDAR data like Leica, where we've been able to optimise the data and create what we would term a
a virtual showroom. So in the 3D environment, we're able to actually walk around now and interact with the environment at certain hotspots. It's still in an R&D stage, but we're at a point where we can take any scan or any product, put it into an environment, walk around it and create various areas to interact. Because what we wanted to do was create something that people were engaged rather than just putting on a headset and looking around this great environment. So I think where we're fitting with this is supporting you guys in working with the data and trying to come to some sort of workable pipeline, but also helping other people that don't quite understand what we've all been talking about this morning to present that in a way that they fully get it. Like you said, people taking up, like, why are they going to use it? Well, you know, you need to be able to visualise it in a positive way for them to be able to take it up. So I think from us, from a creative point of view, from a digital production point of view, and having a large knowledge of the scanning data and products available on the market, we can help you to pull all that together. That was about time creative.
Thank you.
Oh, that's okay.
You get it working now.
I'll get on the screen, but I know you're on straight.
Yeah, you've still got 2 minutes.
How are you? Can you get? Yeah, don't put that one on this level. It's the website about. Can you just scroll down? There it is. It is. It's not on there. No. It's all brand new stuff. Yeah, it's an integrated campaign, but it's, there you go. Click on that one. So this is an example we can play, where we've taken the data, tracked it when we've shot the video, and then superimposed the two over each other so we can see how it's going to benefit the person that's walking through the environment. We might set that up because it doesn't work.
Could you try and describe some of what's going on for those that...
Right, so with all the products that Leica produce, this is the Pegasus, go on top there, which one will know about. A mobile mapping solution, which scans the environment. So you've got a scanner going that way and a scanner going that way, which we had to learn about using GNSS and GPS, so that collects the data, scans the environment, also works with the backpack as well. So we shot it so that people can fully understand that there's two different solutions that allow you to go outside into the environment while scanning and collecting data. So it's using the backpack and using the P40. Yeah, sorry. I feel like I'm on show, presenting to Leica. So we're using P40. So we're using 3 different products to show the different types of scans that you can get, and then all of that data is collected with a huge file. I mean, if you've ever been to the Business Design Centre and you walk into this area here, the amount of data that you have to collect and the detail that you gain from these scans is ridiculous. So we've had to simplify it to allow us to get it into any kind of manageable state.
You've just brought to life something that we were talking about the other day. I was trying to explain how we need to visualise what we're trying to do. So when we capture Peterborough, we need to create a video so that you can see Peterborough and you can see the simulation growing.
Yeah.
And because we need to disseminate this to sighted individuals to get involved to help blind and partially sighted people.
Yeah.
So
which is what I saw in one of the presentations earlier, where you've got the different the different eyesight ranges from you guys. And for me, that's perfect presentation. So
oh right, I didn't realise that's how someone else says
That's why we
penny
did it.
drops.
Yeah.
And it's a similar sort of thing as why we've produced that.
Brilliant.
Sorry, I've gone right over my
No,
time.
thank you.
very much.
Brilliant, really good.
Feels worth the wait. We are really local as well. We're down the road in Milton Keynes. Thank you very much.